Welcome to another edition of What the Fuck Happenings in the Pretty Flower. Oh, how can anybody hate life? It's so pretty, pretty, pretty. Yeah, it's just me hiding behind Pretty Flower. Anyway, it got blown off its its bush by the tropical storm. And anyway, so it was just such a perfect flower. I figured I had to save it. Anyway, yeah. It's probably a good metaphor for something. I probably should use it as a tool to manipulate you, but I won't. All right, well, anyway, I did make 2 videos this week. So, made one yesterday and one today. So, one on economics. So, probably won't be for everyone. And it's really just that, the simple argument that the debt just represents how rich the rich are. So the more debt we create, we just make rich people richer, frankly, because they're the ones getting rich off the debt. So anyway, profiting off of our reckless behavior, however you want to put it. And such. So maybe I won't bother playing clips from that, but we'll see. See how the video goes. See. Well, whatever. Just tired of it all, frankly. So, it's. I have to. Yes, I have to work on doing this more skillfully, and it just doesn't appeal to me as a thing to do with my life. But anyway. So I guess we'll just play the video and get on with it. Turn the volume down probably a little. Anyway, let's see how it goes. Click a little further into the video. So right off, you have to accept the fact that we're going to kill you, and it's. So I was just starting with one of these little thought experiments. Like somebody wakes you up and they're offering you a proposition. Some sort of bargain showed up, and they start off by just saying, yes, we're going to horribly kill you, we're going to kill you, and then we're going to give you something. But wouldn't the kill you part be enough for you just to say, oh well, fuck it then, I don't really want to bother. Okay, if I have to go through the killing thing, no, never mind. Can they really offer me anything that's going to be worth dying for? I don't think so. Torture is. How much is it worth? All right, so nihilists who can't figure out that there's a value, they value nihilists. I mean, I guess all nihilists are value nihilists, but I just mean it's just like somehow because it's not material, since our sensations are created by a material device, but they themselves, the sensations, you can't say are material. They don't have a touchability. They're a motion, an action. It's an action to be conscious. It's not a thing. It's an event. Okay, it takes a bunch of little things to have happen, and that will equal a conscious experience. But so, I mean, would you call a hopping rabbit not material? I mean, it is a material event. The hopping rabbit is an event. It is a thing. And being conscious is a thing, and having a sensation is an event, and there's just no point in saying because you can't nail it to a wall that somehow it's not real, and it's not in the universe, and it's not happening. So that's just too ridiculous. And once you concede that the conscious experiences are happening, what's the argument? It's clearly obvious to any sentient being that there's a big difference between the bad ones and the good ones. Huge distinction, and it's a value difference. No value, negative value, positive value. You could argue the positives, again, are made out of relief from a negative, that where, as I've pointed out, there's no carrots, there's just a whip. And if they stop whipping you, that's fun. No doubt about it. And that's how our fun is created, is that we fix something that's broken. It's not really made out of a true good. It's just the absence of a negative. And that's all it is. Too hot, too cold. Oh, just right. Yeah, well, just right is just not too hot and it's not too cold. That's what makes it just right. It really isn't that complicated. Anyway, moving on. Um, Unpleasant, nasty, torture. Oh, yeah, so I guess I'm just explaining that, this isn't that hard to figure out. And I don't need you to believe. I mean, I've personally experienced it, so I don't need somebody to confirm it, all right? It's like I witnessed it, I saw it. I don't need somebody to tell me it doesn't exist. No, I did it. So don't bother trying to explain to me how my sensations don't have value. I'm experiencing them, I've tasted them, I know them, so fuck you, you're an idiot. You're insane, frankly. And that's probably what we should do, is just declare you insane. I mean, if somebody doesn't know the harm potential of creating torture in a feeling being, if you can't figure out that's bad, then probably should be, in protective custody somewhere. I mean, you get the idea of it, without having to. It's almost you can see. It's almost you can see memories better when you're. Okay. So I was just talking about the brain being a real function to the consciousness, and that some conversation about the theater, and just trying to explain that it doesn't have to be what you think of as a theater. It just has to be a mechanical process that creates the screen in some form of representation, and the thing watching the screen and the building with the air in it. You don't need all that physical structure to create the same essence of it in some other digital form, some other mechanical form. But we already know that our brain is already creating images. It's, so the thing it's duplicating in terms of a memory, the images we create, we're using the same mechanism, and we're creating something that's illusionary in the sense that we're not seeing an actual thing, but we're still seeing it. Yeah. Take any value or fun out of it. It's just watching yourself fail rather than watching yourself succeed. So I think I'm talking about the dismal truth that getting old sucks. You just watch yourself degrade. All the things you cherish are being harmed or killed or have been killed, and you're just left with this completely inadequate functionality. You can't score the can't score the touchdown. I used home run in the video, but you know what I mean. You can't do it anymore. You're just less competitive, less useful, less good, and it's just all just watching yourself become more and more dysfunctional. And why somebody would say those are great times, no, they're kind of dismal and depressing times. Getting old sucks. Anyone who tells you different is just full of shit. You can find aesthetically pleasing in it. So that's another kind of liability of getting older, is you get gapped. Yeah, so then I start talking about the fact that the culture just changes everything, that not only are the things you cherished broken, but things in general. It's not the same aesthetic world to live in. It's made out of different colors and different shapes and different this, and it's all gets frankly ugly from your perspective, because any change is not going to be positive. Because you're used to it. You're used to a potato being a potato and a tomato being a tomato, and as all these things start to change, it just gets very awkward and uncomfortable to exist in a world that that becomes more and more tilted and upside down. So I did have occasion to watch one of the old movie versions of 1984. Right. So I did a bunch of crap on 1984 in terms of the, what parts of the story were that tugged on me when I first read it, and that have any kind of meaning. Like the whole 1984 part of it, the Big Brother part of it, was kind of, to me, a minor story, because to me it wasn't illustrated very well in terms of none of these mechanisms seems like they would actually control people. Google seems a much better example of Big Brother. A much more subtle control mechanism. The whole chatbotting thing, the whole AI thing would have been a better metaphor, or a better threat, a more realistic nanotechnology, something else. This Big Brother idea that a few people could control the masses. It's just so impractical. I mean, just the whole snooping thing in the first place. How the hell, the whole you need people, you need more people doing the watching than there are people to watch. It just doesn't make any sense. You don't have enough watchers to watch all the people. Up with foreigners. I mean, that's all the only two things you're allowed to say. All right, so I took the Big Brother thing. Up with Big Brother, down with Big Brother. Kill Big Brother. It's the same thing. We're living in a world that is almost as silly as that world, where it's just hate day and love day and blah 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 blah, and it's creepily insufficient. Yeah, the world is made out of such silly little mush now. And so that part was pretty natural, I suppose, in growing up and just finding myself inadequate. And it was just this whole idea of the built-in mechanism to strive. And we really are, seekers. It's all this. You want the, nobody tries to win the silver medal or the, it just isn't what you're after. And it's the nature of the beast, and it's from its very origin corrupt, because none of the things you figure out you can win aren't worth winning. That's the joke, right? I mean, the Olympics is a big joke. We're not giving out gold medals for being great citizens and doing the human race a favor. Giving gold medals out because you can jump over some wooden things faster than somebody else. It's just too silly. I mean, the culture is already, it's already been 1984'd life, and then try to find little places you can go where you don't have to be a Muslim anymore. So just talking about how it's all so fake, and all of this, the whole pretense of existence is all built out of these fables and norms, and it's all people just living lies, and and they're defending it as if they're defending it because they have to, because that's what everybody expects from everybody else, is support for the system. Don't be an outsider. The system is too hard to understand, and in a way it's really easy to understand. So this, I'm talking about a different system. I think I was talking about the environmental argument or something, that you can just, you should be able to explain it. But what you can't do is you can't make somebody intelligent. You know what I mean? I can't just in a 1-hour video, read the origin of species or something. I can't give you the context that intelligent conversation is going to be made out of, because intelligent conversation has to have all of that crap put into it. It has to have all this other knowledge. You have to know the difference between geology and sociology. You have to know the difference between different disciplines and different ways of finding out information that'll tell you how things work and what they're made out of. But some stories are simple enough that you should be able to tell them even without people having any knowledge of the actual physical mechanisms. So I think I used the sequester of carbon as an example. That's all you have to know to understand global warming, is just the difference between the world 300 million years ago and the world today, and the difference is there's not a bunch of dead stuff. There wasn't a bunch of dead stuff buried under the ground 300 million years ago, and there is now. Well, there was until we showed up to let it all loose again. I mean, it's just so silly, a wishful thought even. It doesn't even make any sense, and it's so strongly held on to. Okay, the God thing, yeah, the silly, it's such a silly story on its face. You go to heaven and forget who you are. What's the point of going then? If I'm not going to be me, then what's the point of me being there? I don't need to be there if it's not me. It's just too silly. Than just some marginally superior failure. Yeah, so that's all we're striving for, is to be the marginally superior failure. No, there's nothing else to do here. It's just don't fail as much cycling through the atmosphere anymore. And yeah, so that's it. I think that's more eco stuff. But it should be as simple as that to explain about life, right? Life isn't any more complicated than, say, the carbon cycle, in some respects. It's just robot programmed. You can love petting cats, or you can enjoy sticking nails in their eye. All of this is psychological crap. And we can form people into psychological things that are playing a real game, or we can form them into psychological things that are living in delusions and fantasies about how they're going to go to heaven, and how everything's going to be all right, and how mommy's not going to die of cancer, and blah 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 blah. And so you can live in reality, or you can live in bullshit. And I mean, clearly people are choosing bullshit, and they're choosing to feed their kids bullshit, but it's not hard it shouldn't be very difficult. It's not very difficult to speak some words that logically say bullshit is bad. Stop doing it. I mean, that shouldn't be too hard to figure out. That living lies isn't living good. Grow the fuck up. It should make somebody think, oh yeah, well, am I living in a cartoon, or am I living in reality? Yeah, so yeah, nothing to say. I mean, beyond yes, okay, so there's all these simple arguments about how life yes, right, life fails. And I really should be able to make these simple arguments, and that should be all I have to do. But clearly it's not all you have to do. Apparently you do have to go to their level, and present the themes in whatever, the form of SpongeBob. You have to do it in some cartoon, because they really aren't interested in human-to-human contact. And, it's, they need it to entertain them. I mean, it has to be infotainment. It has to be an infomercial, which is another idea I haven't played with in a while. But I mean, that's really what I should be creating, is some sort of self-sustaining statement, and see if it can survive. But the problem with it is that, yeah, you don't want to feed Google. You don't want to feed the commercial industry. You want to be able to have your propaganda self-sustaining, by people supporting it, by hearing the message and saying, yes, I'll send the chain letter, that kind of bullshit. But I have to work on a strategy like that. Chain letter, that doesn't have anything to do with money. But anyway, continuing. Ooh, maybe. To accept, even though their evidence sucks, out of faith, without reason, without logic. Yeah, so the big problem is religion, and the thing that goes with it which is profound ignorance. I mean, you have to be really stupid to be really confident in religion, right? You could be a little bit fooled by it. You could say, well, what if there is a God? He'll be mad at me, and you could think some silly shit now and then. But to have real belief or faith, that takes a level of ignorance. You have to be really stupid not to recognize, well, I really shouldn't do that. I mean, I really shouldn't put all my intellectual, whatever, crackers, in one basket. It's just not smart. It's stupid. So some of their stupidity they should be able to recognize because it's so stupid. That they're breaking basic rules of how you acquire understanding. It's almost like understanding that you can't have two contradictory thoughts. You can't say it is and it isn't. It's black and it's white. I mean, that's just being an asshole. They should be able to figure that much out. Alright, that's the end of the video. It's a little bit of a distracted video, I have to say. But that's the way it works. I'm in a distracted mood. Just because there is a lot, it's the same thing that's been harassing me for years now, is just to find a better way of communicating these simple ideas rather than just redundantly telling the story in subtly different ways. That's the challenge, and I just haven't found any satisfactory solution to that problem. So we'll just see if I can find such a solution. The real missing ingredient is there's also just no feedback to exactly what the big issue is. So the life defenders won't really explain what they're defending. I mean, they won't concede the mass murder, right? So let's just say that the environment is mass murdering kittens and all kinds of puppies and all kinds of immature organisms. Every day it murders billions of them in really horrible and disgusting ways. So what's their defense of that? It doesn't matter, or it's not a big deal. Animals don't feel. I mean, what is their counter argument to that price being too high to pay? That somehow they're not worth it. Well, where have they explained they are worth it? Where's the counter argument? I don't see a glimmer of a counter argument. All I see is them saying, some sort of nasty thing about me. He wears crooked shirts. He has dirty fingernails. I don't know, some stuff, some bullshit. I don't hear a counter argument in any kind of form. So what exactly is their obstacle to understanding that we're robots, that nature is horrifically inefficient in terms of how it treats sentient organisms? It doesn't impose failure in some nice way where it just says, you failed, and slide them into the, it's not even as kind as a factory farm, where they just drop the little chicks, into the little grinding wheel. At least it's over in a few milliseconds. Well, whatever. There just isn't any counter argument to the, yes, even if I had to inject children with cancer, I would do it for the fun of life. To defend all the fun we're having, I would do it. I could actually go to the hospital and inject the kid with cancer, and I would feel great about it because his death is worth my fun. Of course, it's obvious. I don't even hear that. Nothing. You get nothing from the defenders except, shut up! You don't get anything else. That's their counter argument. Shut the fuck up! Alright, anyway. So, till the next time, and such, and so forth, and whatnot. Yeah, it's enough of a video. Oh. Yeah, well, I guess I should at least acknowledge that I did spend an hour talking about the economy stuff. So maybe I'll play a little bit of it. Just a little bit. Trillion. You can understand how long it would take if every single tax dollar went to pay the debt it would take. Right, so we only collect, $4 trillion and we owe 80 trillion. So even if we wanted to pay back our debt, you could just imagine it would take a long time, even if every single dollar we give to the poor and give to this and give to, even if all that money, the military, all that money went to the debt, it would take 80 years. Anyway, well, no, it would take it would take 160 years, decades to pay back the money. It's a gigantic. Okay. Anyway, yes, we said that already. The argument, in my opinion, but go ahead. Oh, it was a response to a Sabine Hassenfelder video, right? A physicist, scientist, defending capitalism, and that's what it really was. She tried to take the edge of it off of it, trying to, with a kind of clickbait title, but yeah, it was just a defense, of greed. Greed works. No, it doesn't. Perfect shysters. They're not in it for anything but to make their non-earned assets earn them. That's my key point, is that this whole capitalism thing would be such a weak and who cares kind of argument. Everybody would realize it's not a big difference if it wasn't for inheritance. Inheritance is what ruins the game, because that takes all the merit out of it, all the earn out of it, all the reward good works out of it, and just makes it ownership. It just makes it a kingdom, royal families. We're the possession of some family. So you do have to make the game. We're just owned slaves. A little bit lopsided, or people will do nothing. Right, so you have to have some incentives to do work, or you have no productivity. So obviously capitalism creates productivity because, yes, the slaves will be whipped if they don't comply. If they don't do enough work, they won't have a life they can live. So yes, it forces us to do work. It forces us to spend a lot of our time doing things we don't want to do. So yes, and the things that are good for the society are rather good for us. Okay, so it forces us to be unselfish, you could argue. And yes, we need some incentive to be unselfish. But clearly, you should have a mechanism that is rewarding the real merit, which is the social good, not a system that's rewarding some jackass who owns it. All of the shenanigans that happens between businesses and how they, they'll buy a company and just... Okay, so that's a technical detail of all the rackets that are in capitalism, all the ways that you can exploit and maneuver and break any kind of invisible hand. The invisible hand is broken all over the place. And Adam Smith even said that. So the guy who invented the terminology basically said inheritance does break the hand. Because now reward and punishment isn't associated with actual action. And so, you don't earn it. It takes the earning out of it. And earning is everything. That's why the invisible hand works, is because it gives everybody the incentive to run the race, because it's a fair race. As soon as you make it an unfair race, then the horses are going to say, I'm not going to bother. I'll just sit in my stall and get fat. Because it's a fixed, it's a rig. It's not a race. Okay, it's a fake and a fraud. I'm just a slave for the show. I don't get any go. I don't get anything out of it. Anyway. So that's the real point, is that, it's just about creating a system of economics that is fair. That's what you're really after, faironomics. Okay, earnonomics, faironomics, meritonomics, something other than, royal family or lazy pigs. So that's it. Did want to make another point. I forgot what it was. Kind of a decisive one, but I forgot. The rhetoric, you sat there and just said, oh yeah, you could kill all the rich. So if all the rich got a virus and died tomorrow, all the people who have, let's say, $500 million or more, we wouldn't miss any of them. Just, you wouldn't. And maybe there are a few doctors in there, a few decent people. So let's make it a $3 million. But anyway, you wouldn't miss it. You wouldn't miss them. They don't perform any duties. They're non-functional. All they are is collectors. They're just debt collectors. They're just sitting there doing absolutely nothing but moving their assets around. Little piles of their own gold, and that's all they do all day is just move their little piles of gold around. They don't do anything for the society. They don't run any cable. They don't pave any streets. They don't grow any food. They don't do anything. So all of these things would still exist. A farm doesn't disappear because we decided to take the deed and put it in somebody else's pocket. Who owns the property isn't going to make the farm disappear. So all the assets exist, all the functionality of our system exists, and the only thing, if all the rich people drop dead, we'd all just become so much more wealthy. We'd all have such better lives. You'd have to work less. But that's the catch, right? You'd have to work less. So the fact is that we wouldn't be as productive. But there is a fine, there's a line somewhere where you say, how much productivity are you allowed to squeeze out of people? How much should the people today sacrifice for the future? And maybe if they just did it honestly, right? If somebody asked me to sacrifice for the future, to make the lives of the people in the future better by getting to progress quicker, by doing more work now, that would be an incentive. That would be a real carrot. That would tell somebody, well, yeah, okay, maybe I don't feel like going to work, but I'll go to work for the future. But doing it for some rich capitalist? Fuck that. Yeah. All right, anyway. Enough of the video now, for sure. So anyway, that video does exist. There's no icon here at the moment, but it's there. Yeah, there's the icon. So you should be able to find it. It'll be linked in the below thing. So 2 videos to choose from, or you could watch both. But whatever. Yeah, you choose. It's at your discretion, whatever. So, till the next time and such. Pretty flower. Maybe we just end with pretty flower again. It is it is like a perfect flower. Now, yeah, it just, I grew it. I mean, I didn't make it, so, but it is like almost a perfect flower. I mean, it's just almost perfect. I've had some successes this year, I have another beet picture I have to show you. It really was a grapefruit size beet. I mean, just that big. Anyway, I'll save that for next time. Be big fun. Anyway, till the next time and such and so forth and whatnot. Blah, 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 blah.